Live from SABC headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Welcome to this week's penultimate edition of the Watchdog. My name is Vuyo Mvogo, and on the show tonight,
it's the biggest abuse of women. I mean, where would I get that money? Why mustn't I exercise my constitutional right?
Another rough week for suspended Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane. What does she have to say for herself? She is my first guest. And the puzzle of no prosecutions. Years after the surfacing of what some thought were prosecutable cases, and with both the Hawks and the NPA coming under new, seemingly driven and thought to be very capable leaders, the public's trust in the two law enforcement agencies continues to wane. And now a new study, independent, shines the light on the problems of the two organizations. All that coming up in this evening's episode of The Watchdog, which starts right now. Quite an eventful week for suspended Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. It started off with witnesses telling the lawmakers at the impeachment inquiry she is reluctantly participating in just how bad a boss they think she is. Then, yesterday, the Constitutional Court dismissing her latest rescission application to overturn its earlier ruling on the lawfulness of Parliament's Section 194 committee that's currently looking into her fitness to hold office. In its unanimous ruling, the ConCourt ruled that Advocate Mkhwebane had made no case and that her last-ditch attempt constituted an abuse of court processes. She was subsequently slapped with a cost order. She must now pay the legal costs of that application out of her own pocket. Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane joins me from Cape Town. Good evening, Advocate. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, Vuyo. Good evening to your viewers. I just wanted to correct one thing. The Constitutional Court judgments was not relating to the Section 194 committee, but it was relating to the issue of the utilization of the judge for the independent panel, which, determined whether there's a prima facie case, and also the issue of the SMS of Abraham J.
Apologies for that, my mistake. Thank you very much for correcting that, Advocate. Let's start with the your reaction to that ruling. You believe it's very unfair, especially the cost part.
Definitely, Vuyo. It's very much unfair. I mean, I was exercising my right as a South African, as a citizen, to make sure that, I also go to the court, especially the Constitutional Court, which is there to make sure that there's justice, develop jurisprudence. They should have engaged on those issues, and also when they issue their judgment, to indicate why are they saying I'm abusing the court process. Where is it written that when you always going back to court and say, please hear me, and then I am clobbered with the personal costs, and it's even worse. I must pay all the court costs, and by that issue, I wanted to make sure that the court gives us direction, gives us how to handle this particular matter. Again, I wouldn't be even facing those personal costs if I was not the public protector. As Busisiwe Mkhwebane, I would be sitting doing whatever I would be doing, but I wanted to make sure that whatever is done, the Constitution, as we are calling it, the supreme law of the land, and being a constitutional state, we should apply it to the T.
I mean, is your answer, isn't perhaps, don't you find the answer to your former concern in the fact that the ConCourt ruled or believes that you actually made no case and therefore abused, court processes?
That's not what they were supposed to be doing. Why are they saying I've made no case? I mean, there was an application for rescission, which judgment Abraham J. knew before we know it as the parties in that particular matter. And we complained to the Chief Justice, and we said they should investigate this thoroughly. But we also continued to investigate as the Public Protector. We brought evidence before the Chief Justice. He told you as SABC that he's also going to investigate the matter. Later, then there's a judge, former judge or the retired judge in party, who's then saying there's no merit in the matter. So again, what does it do to the decorum of the Constitutional Court? How to respect this very, apex court when I would be subjected to. If they are able to do that to me as a constitutional institution incumbent, what about an ordinary man on the street who's supposed to be protected? And we are calling ourselves this state, which is a constitutional state. Our constitution is the best in the world, but you are treating a constitutional institution the way I'm being treated. So I wanted them to engage on the issues. Now you have an individual in the name of Abraham J, who's busy saying, my learned friend judge is telling me that that matter will be dismissed. And indeed, it's dismissed. You know,
but then, Judge Mphathi, from his investigations, advocate, found no evidence. I think that's how it was put. I hope I'm correct here. Are you then saying, perhaps, that from your investigations, when you tried to make your case, you put, you had evidence to the contrary?
Yes, we had evidence, and we have issued our report. And Judge Mphathi is not supposed to review my report, but the very same Constitutional Court said the reports and the report of the Public Protector must be reviewed by a court. Now Judge Mphathi is doing his own investigation, and he's saying there's no evidence. But evidence is there. We have all the evidence which is available out there. We've made it public, and showing the communication between Abraham G and those judges, showing the communication between Abraham G and Advocate Breitenbach about the very same issue. So what do you call that? I think this application was saying deliberate on these matters, go deeper into the issues before you just rush to issue the decision. And that then reflects and shows what it shows that, the independence and of the judges, or some of the judges, then is questionable, because if you then see something like this and then you just go ahead and issue the judgment. You've seen in the USA what happened, where there was a leak of a judgment in the matter. And that country had to come to a standstill. They had to investigate. They had to deal with that particular matter, because you don't just take these issues lightly, especially being a constitutional court, being a constitutional democracy. That's how we call ourselves. And there's something like this involving the judges of the Constitutional Court.
Okay. Okay.
So I think that's what we should be taking these issues very seriously. But now it's as if they are angry at me. It's like now they are punishing me.
Why would they do that, though?
But why are they giving me personal costs? It's a punishment, Vuyo, and I think it's not a secret that some of the retired judges even said they should bankrupt me. And where would I get the resources to do that and to pay personal costs? Why am I clobbered with personal costs? Okay, it's like now I'm being taught a lesson. You dare do that, and then we will issue. Why issue personal costs?
Okay,
why? I was not even given an opportunity. Why they didn't allow me to come and present? Why I'm always following up and going back and going back? And then you just decide on your own that you are abusing, because I was never given a hearing on that particular issue.
Okay.
Why I'm going back to them.
Okay, I'm not a lawyer, and for the benefit of the rest of us, I mean, who aren't, just remove yourself, I mean, from it for a second. I don't know how difficult it is to do that with something you're involved in, and that's so personal. But remove yourself for a second, and just as a lawyer, make us understand under what circumstances do courts decide to slap someone with costs? What would have happened, or what would typically have happened?
In instances where the litigants have acted in bad faith, Vuyo, and that can be proved that the litigants have acted in bad faith, and the litigants have also hidden information to the court, and they were not upfront with that particular information, and the litigant also is not honest in their dealings with the court. So those are the requirements for the personal costs.
Are they the only requirements?
Now, any litigant should be given that opportunity to present their side of the story. So Vuyo, when you then decide as a person, like yourself, let's take it now home, yourself, where you have to discipline your child, and you just saying to your child, today I'm going to give you 6 lashes, and you don't even explain to your child, why are you doing that? Because you are saying to your child, you came late, I don't want to hear anything, I'm giving you 6 lashes. Instead of you listening to your child, no, Dad, I was late, or I got an accident and stuff. Now me, I'm not given that opportunity. It means me now I'm not a human being. Yeah, besides the fact that I'm the public protector. They were duty bound to give reasons. Why are they saying I'm abusing the court process? Those are the requirements. I think if you check the Concord judgment of CX, or the Reserve Bank matter, Judge Mkhwebane was also very clear to ask, where did I act in bad faith? Because there are requirements for costs and punitive costs, worse personal costs. And I mean, the Constitutional Court is not beyond reproach. The Constitutional Court, the public protector can investigate anything in state affairs. I was not investigating any judgment, but I was investigating the conduct, improper conduct of any person. Now, Vuyo, why must I be punished? Why must I be punished and not be asked, PP, why are you coming back over and over again?
You do, okay, 2 things. So you do believe that you did make your case, and you also believe that you were not supposed to be slapped with a court order because you hadn't met any of the conditions that are required for somebody to be slapped with costs.
Definitely, Vuyo. That's all I needed in this apex court, the Constitutional Court, and which knows what are the rights of each and every person as provided for in the Constitution. You know, this Bamje person, I don't know how they got the inside information. They knew the information. The judgment, they continued to issue the judgment. They delayed it with a week, but indeed, it was exactly what Abraham said. Then how do we take seriously the Constitutional Court and even our judiciary? Because people must feel safe. People must know that we are protected as a country. Justice will be served. Now something like this is happening. I don't think it's proper. Okay, put me aside because possibly I'm not a human being. Possibly I don't have rights. I mean, let's take it to you as a person and to you members of the public, where you expect the judiciary to protect you. Lady Justice actually should be blind. Lady Justice shouldn't even or shouldn't say because it's this particular person or that particular person. So it's very, very, very bad for you, Uguti. I must be paying from my pocket. Where do I get that kind of money? I have my family, I have my children, and I am also in this position doing my work, my responsibility as the head of a Chapter 9 institution, but I'm dealt with like this. It's very scary. And I'm repeating, if they are able to deal with me like this, what about any other member of the public?
Okay. I want us to move then. I mean, okay, the ruling has now been made. You've expressed your views and feelings about it. Let's go back to yesterday again. I mean, Ms. Mkhwebane was once an executive manager in your office. Speaking of how you placed officials under reasonably tight timelines to meet targets. I mean, others before had also said pretty much. Now, as a journalist for many years, I know what deadlines mean, and one accepts also that your environment is particularly regulated. Things have to be done within, certain periods and so on. But what was interesting for me about Ms. Mkhwebane's testimony is that you put them under so much pressure, I mean, on her account, obviously, for something in the one instance that you were actually not even supposed to have looked at. In other words, it wasn't something that was within your jurisdiction. I'm talking here about the Financial Sector Conduct Authority matter, for instance.
Let me start by saying, to the South African public, the Public Protector is a constitutional institution which investigates improper conduct in state affairs, which has additional powers under the Public Protector Act, which is to investigate maladministration. One of the elements of maladministration includes undue delay, and that services should be provided promptly. Section 237 of the Constitution is also very clear that we should be providing any state official services on time. That institution, Mr. Mkhwebane, has been there for more than 20 years. There is what we call the annual performance plan, or the strategic document. Is a 5-year document. Always, you mentioned as well, each matter, service delivery matters, can be dealt with between 6 months to 12 months. Good governance and integrity matters between 24 months to 36 months. There are timeframes, as you are correctly saying, in any way, there are timeframes which needs to be set. And the most important thing is that when they sign their performance agreements, as a senior manager, and I think you've heard she earns 1.6 million, she's at the DDG level, and those senior investigators are at almost 900,000, but in public administration, they are at the deputy director level, almost at the director level. You go to Home Affairs, that person is running almost the whole region or the whole district. That's what I need to show to South Africans. We need to lead by example as the public protector. We cannot have a situation where a person is lodging a complaint, their husband has passed on, they are going to the master's office, their matter is delaying for 12 to a year, nothing is being done, the person is not getting paid, they sleep without food. When as a senior investigator, you earn your salary every month, you have everything. So hence the issue of they know that the people who are coming to the public protector have lost hope in the system because we have public servants who don't want to do their work, who don't want to even pay SMMEs on time. People deliver service, they are not paid. So they come to us. We also delay 4 to 5 years to finalize their matters. And that's my principle that we should be leading by example. Now coming to the issue of FSP, that we didn't have a jurisdiction. That was after at the litigation stage. What happens in the institution is that when the complaint is lodged, as a complaints and stakeholder management, they accept the matter, they assess it for jurisdiction. Most of the time, the assessment there, it's only dealing with, is it a state institution which is involved or not the nitty-gritties like the technicalities. Then it's allocated to an investigator. The investigator then will determine, will conduct a preliminary investigation. How do you just rush and say it's a matter which happened 2 years ago, therefore we don't have jurisdiction? You must apply your mind, you must check whether there are special circumstances, whether that maladministration is still ongoing. Therefore, in this particular matter, that's what happened. The investigator who was allocated the matter engaged all the parties to the matter, accumulated all the evidence, which evidence was then handed over to Madiba and to Karina and to the acting COO, Ms. Mutsitsi, who then took all the evidence which was there, because that investigator, Matlawe, was focusing more on quality assurance and also indicating as a union member that actually my appointment is focusing on quality assurance. Now I've got this investigation because possibly he was seeing that the time frame he was not going to meet. But then there herself at that level, she was then supposed to write to me and not be a postdoc, because with her 20 years experience and saying, no, I was just transferred to handle that particular matter. You would expect somebody who has a lot of experience who would then sit with the team if I'm asking about that matter and say, team, can you brief me? What are you doing? How far are you? And when I demand that section, and it was still a section 7-9, it was still during the investigation. So if they felt that, okay, even if I've signed it, but come back and say, public protector, yes, you've signed it, it has gone, but because now it's 5 months down the line, we are picking up the following issues, which we should. There's a number of matters, Vuyo, for the public.
Well, she seemed to suggest that, you gave them a directive to complete or finalize the report, because 2 days later, it is going to form part of reports that are going to be issued during some media briefing, and that seemed to be the motivating factor.
You know what you need to know, Vuyo, and I've mentioned that there are targets which are set, are there in this annual performance plan. She mentioned that herself, that conduct failure matters or GGI matters, good governance and integrity matters, we have set the target of 2 years. It was 2 years later when that report was supposed to be issued. And herself, she was there in that unit already 5 months. Yes, maybe 6 weeks, as my counsel has indicated, maybe it was unreasonable for her. But then 5 months into that, and she was supposed to conduct file inspections. She had her branch dashboard where they would engage and discuss the matters, and when they pick up issues which they need to consult themselves. Vuyo, they do that themselves, being the branches, before matters can come to me. For me, I will check that this matter now, it's long overdue. We should be moving towards issuing a report. I gave those time frames. They didn't meet the 6 weeks. They didn't meet after 4 months. They didn't meet after 5 months. And she was supposed to be doing that.
Two things, just from what you've just said. One is, so you are not giving her and her team the benefit of a doubt that, especially on this matter, which I'm only citing as an example, precisely because they felt they needed to be a lot more thorough, a lot more circumspect, and from what she told Parliament, they also needed to, I mean, there were some quality assurance issues that also are needed to be addressed. So you're not giving her the benefit of a doubt. And then what then arises from me is that how widespread then is what you have described? In other words, people on your account not doing their jobs, not meeting deadlines, having to be harassed for them to be able to do their jobs. Is that a problem, or was that a problem in that office?
Vuyo, I think we can't say people are harassed. People should be doing their work.
On their account, not person. Yeah.
Yes, that's so wrong. I have found a mess in that institution. And Vuyo, for your information, some of the 3 or 4 of the reports or charges, it's because of the reports I've found there gathering dust for past 4 years, people not investigating or investigating, nothing was moving. And I found that institution, the performance was at very a low level. And yes, for us to achieve from below 50% performance to now last year to 80% performance, it's because of the very style which I was using, the hard work, the working on Saturdays, at night and everywhere, to make sure that people are not suffering. So that's my main issue, that we cannot have people who are waiting for their IDs, for their payout from UIF, compensation fund, their SASSA grants, and we have people who are being paid to do this, to hold the public servants to account. There is nothing untoward. That matter was 2 years in the institution. That matter, when it was allocated, moved from one investigator to another. If you are a person who's skilled, very much knowledgeable, being with a public protector for more than 20 years at the director and a chief director and now DDG level, it wouldn't take you long to analyze that particular evidence and make sure that the matter is finalized, because already issues were identified by the senior investigator, already evidence was acquired. The only thing was to assess all the evidence. Now you go on being that particular team, you then also hide certain information which is brought by the respondent. You don't incorporate it when they respond to that section 7-9 and the report is finally issued, and you come back at a later stage and say, no, I just passed it through. Actually, we didn't have jurisdiction, or actually was put under pressure. So it's so unfortunate that we cannot accept something like that. And now I'm portrayed as this person who is insensitive. I always told them, Vuyo, that I cannot have a situation where people are sitting with work, and when the time arrives, and then people will be saying, no, I'm putting them under pressure. And for your information, and for the South African information, and for the family Yagamadiba, there are several engagements I had with him, his sickness as well, suggesting, Madiba, you should take medical boarding, you should be working like this. It's not like how I am being portrayed currently, but as well, he refused and said, no, I still want to work, I still want to do the following. And it's even worse that reporting to the very same officials who come there. They don't want to be accountable. And when we speak about the achievements, which I acknowledge I took along them, we worked hard, sleepless nights, and we achieved what we've achieved. 2 clean audits, and this year we got the 3rd one, though it's not identified, and the backlog has been cleared. And I said to them, I wouldn't want to leave this institution with backlog. I don't want my successor to struggle and suffer like how I suffered.
Okay.
Because I wanted to make sure that when they don't have backlog, they can then serve the members of the public with peace. We won't have any conflicts with them. And we've helped a number of members of the public with our work, Vuyo. Unfortunately, this process, it's only focusing on those few matters, and it's so disappointing as well to hear the voices of the people, members of parliament, portraying as if there shouldn't be any service delivery, because we are in this mess as a country. If we would be continuing to leave people just to do their work as they please.
Sorry to pardon. I chose her particular testimony, or this case, not only because it's the most recent, and on the back, of course, of others who have expressed, similar sentiments. I've chosen it also because it kind of goes straight to, perhaps the reason you are now facing these impeachment proceedings, because if you put people under enormous pressure to a point where they really can't cope, you end up with poor quality reports. You then act on those reports. They get overturned or they get reviewed successfully, and you then have all these, cases that to some people suggest, the office, or you don't know what are you doing, or you don't know the law, or you deliberately go out of your way to seek very specific outcomes. And that's the reason we now have this committee, which you've been, part of or attending for weeks on end.
This committee is political, Vuyo, and South Africans, you should know. It's a motion of the DA, the very same DA which lodged the motion, which had some gaps and a lot of faults, and as well corrected that motion after I engaged the speaker. Thandi Modise said that, but then you cannot act on something which has already passed. You need to have rules, and those rules should apply going forward. What did they do? They worked with Samuel. Then Samuel lodged the complaint after he knew that he's being investigated for being convicted a criminal, or for assaulting a member of the public, which he was supposed to protect. And again, for the members of the public, there was nothing which is rushed. Vuyo, out of the 58, after the 60,000 plus complaints we've received, we finalized 58,000, and most of them are bread and butter issues. We've changed lives of South Africans. We've impacted them positively. It's only those few reports. Out of the reports which were set aside by February, it was only 17 reports out of the 412 reports. So now you speak as if all the reports have been set aside, and it's only numbers, and people were put under pressure. Therefore, there's no one who was put under pressure. People should be doing their work, and I'm grateful to the staff members who are continuing to do their work, who understand that the lives of the people down there, out there, it needs to be changed. They always know, and that's also my motto. If you can ask any other person who's not a complainant, what I always say to them is that, imagine people have lost hope into this system. They go to public home affairs, they go to the municipality, they are not paid on time, they are enabling documents are not delivered on time, and then they come to us, we treat them like that ourselves. So where we issue reports, it's for the benefit of the very same ministers, DGs. Change your system. These are the proposals for you to do things better going forward. But then, because people don't want to lose face, and then they take us to court. And I don't take them to court, Vuyo, for not implementing the remedial action. They take me to court, and we defend those matters because they have an impact on the mandate, or we protect the very same vulnerable. I gave an example about the vendor pensioners, where you find that we were defending the vendor pensioners because Mboweni feels I can't implement this. I don't care. Those people must go back and stand only in that queue. People who've been public servants and who were misled by public servants to withdraw from government. So me now what I'm doing for you, and I wouldn't even change anything. Well, this part is political. DA motion, which is being run by the ANC, they're running with it. And from day one, actually, DA, you know, they didn't want me. They called me a spy. They failed to prove that. And again, people who are working at state security agency, I'll still stand for them. They are a constitutional institution. They should be protected. Okay. People must listen to DA when they are always saying state security. It's as if it's something which people must be persecuted.
Well, Advocate, I mean, it's important perhaps to point out. It's important to point out that it's not the DA that actually decided to go ahead with this inquiry. I mean, Parliament deliberated on this, whatever the origins of the motions. We are where we are because Parliament took a decision. They saw a need to, actually initiate this process. But in the interest of time, I just want to take a couple of, comments, questions from people who are watching this program. We haven't run out of time. Coleman says the suspended PP says Lady Justice should be blind, but yesterday she complained of Concord's decision. How can they do that to a woman on a Women's Month? Lady Justice should be blind, Moss, and not see any gender. Let's see who else has anything else to say. Edris Klongwane. So now Advocate Mkhwebane is pleading her case on SABC News. How does this work? Is this part of her evidence that mumbling Dali will present to her impeachment inquiry? I hope ANC Parliament MPs are watching. Let's take one or two more quickly, because so that you can address all of them, advocates, if you don't mind. Why is Public Protector Office become so famous when Mkhwebane arrives in that office? Was one more. Impetega ubusi indaba yama personal cost order, but she has a point. Now is she slept with costs when not even given a hearing or reasons? Her matters could be prejudged. Again, that court might be making judgment based on who and not what. Your concluding comments, Advocate, on the back of those tweets?
Maybe let me start by saying, Vuyo, I still say this matter is political. It's a DA motion. That one, and ANC supported it. And I would still say that, unfortunately, as well, the committee, I am happy with the committee and the way it's dealing with the matter, because it exposes the lies which are out there and the judgments which were issued wrongly. So now the response is that I'm speaking to the public, and there's a lot of evidence we will bring, and it's not mumbling Dali, it's Advocate Mpofu SC, who is standing for human rights, who's defending some of us where most of other legal professions have kept quiet whilst I'm being persecuted. And yes, Lady Justice must be blind on the merits of the matter. I was indicating that issue that I was not even given a hearing dealt with, because some of the litigants, even Chief Justice Zondo was one of the litigants in the matter. It shows that they were angry at me, and unfortunately, history will absolve me. Thank you so much, Rio. Those are my closing remarks, South African.
And you wouldn't
watch for yourself, decide for yourself. Don't be brainwashed by mainstream media. Thank you.
And you're saying that everything you've done over the past 6 or so years, if you're to be given a chance, you would do it all over again, the same way you've done it.
When it comes to members of the public, I said it that I will give my all. During my interview, I said I'll give my all, and even I still repeat, if I perish for protecting the public, let me perish. I'm sacrificing myself because I'm a servant of the people. I wouldn't change anything. And I will still go back to that office and demand that we serve the public. We stick to the timeframes. They know, all the investigators, they've got investigation plans. They need to stick to their investigation plans. Nothing will stop them from doing that. So I'm waiting for this process to finish. And I think people must see what DA is meant to do. And DA, which says is the constitutional, it believes in constitutional state, but then now they persecute me as this constitutional institution, unfortunately supported by the ANC. And unfortunately, those speakers being women as well, allowing something like this to happen. Yes. Yeah. I must account, but unfortunately, I feel that this is way overboard. I can take it as a person, and I'm still willing to go on and take it, because I still believe that I'm here to protect the public and I will serve the public. Yes, thank you.
Well, we'll see how this process unfolds. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the suspended public protector, on the back, of course, of that court ruling yesterday, but also some of the testimonies parliamentarians heard this particular week. After the break, the truth about why the Hawks and the NPA aren't prosecuting even what appear to be the easiest state capture cases. Whether in some instances it's because of complete inaction, or in others, undue delays in investigating and prosecuting important high-profile cases. But what has happened is that the public's trust in the National Prosecuting Authority and in the Hawks has been deeply eroded. And that's despite changes in the two state law enforcement agencies' leadership under the Cyril Ramaphosa administration, following almost a decade of interference and capture. Non-profit organization Open Secrets, whose mission is to promote private sector accountability for economic crimes and related human rights violations, has just published an investigative report titled "Bad Cops, Bad Lawyers." It details how officials at the NPA and the Hawks are delaying justice for state capture crimes. Raisa Peitha is one of the investigators and authors and joins us on the line. Good evening, Raisa. Thanks very much for your time. Perhaps a bit of background as to why you decided as an organization to conduct this study or investigation.
Thank you so much, Boyo. That's a great question. So we actually started this year by releasing a report called Wanted, which investigated state capture at 4 South African SOEs and agencies, which included PRASA, SAA, SARS, and Denel. And when we looked at those agencies, we made the point that, look, these are the easy cases that the NPA and Horse can investigate and prosecute. These are not lengthy racketeering cases. These are easier fraud prosecutions that can quickly take place. We then decided that we needed to do a follow-up report on why there are delays and inaction to prosecute state capture crimes. And that's what led to this investigation, which we've launched today.
And in the main, you found, I hope we're going to be able to bring up, some of the, the record this report exposes about, the numbers of cases, the volumes of paper that the State Capture Inquiry has been able to produce, witnesses, the number of witnesses that have come before the State Capture Inquiry. But in spite of all of that, not much, seems to have been done.
Yeah, and also very interestingly, the Zondo Commission heard testimony from within the NPA itself. Karen van Rensburg, who works in a very senior position in the NPA's administration, submitted an affidavit to the commission saying that in the Jiba and Abrams years, when state capture was taking place, when Jacob Zuma was president in 2012 and 2015 to 2016, there was state capture within these agencies. Van Rensburg points out very clearly and names the officials who helped to capture the NPA. But unfortunately, the Zondo Commission did not have the time or resources to make findings in terms of capture on the NPA. And this report really tries to be that missing chapter on what happened at the NPA during the Zuma years and why the agency is still struggling today.
Now, you have identified, in your report, what you call bottlenecks. It would seem like the use of the term suggests to some that you kind of, one couldn't help but feel you're being generous, perhaps. I don't know what you think of that.
Perhaps. The main point that we're trying to make is that there are officials within the NPA and the Hawks who have been accused of serious misconduct over the last 10 or so years. And these are officials who, for example, acted to prosecute the SARS road unit case, which we know was a key case that prevented investigations into state capture crime. That alleged road unit was actually the unit within SARS that was responsible for investigating high-profile and politically connected individuals and entities. So if that unit doing that investigative work is being targeted, it means that they can't do the work to bust corruption and state capture crimes. And so we're saying that if the prosecutors and investigators who move these spurious claims and allegations forward, these cases forward, are still employed in the NPA and Hawks, then what trust can we have in the NPA and Hawks to investigate and prosecute state capture crimes today?
And that's precisely why, going through the document, I kind of had problems with these being called bottlenecks, because these are people who are, some of them actually, there's a prima facie case of that some of them actually stand in the way of prosecutions or steered things in a different direction than that which they should have, So this is why one wonders why you were kind of kind, if I were to put it that way.
Yeah, we can't say, for example, that these officials were corrupt. There's no evidence to say that actually what they were doing was corruption and that they were taking orders from political elites and senior officials in the Zuma administration when they did these cases. What seems to be the issue is that there was a high level of incompetence, and these officials seem to be blindly following orders without challenging them. And what they should have done was to say, actually, we don't have the evidence. We shouldn't have been doing these cases. But at the moment, we can't say that they were truly corrupt, which I guess is what many people would want to say. At the moment, all we can say is that they failed in their duties to do their jobs. And as a result, they were the bottlenecks. They were the officials that stopped these cases going forward and that prevented us from around 10 or so years ago prosecuting state capture cases that we should have been prosecuting a long time ago.
Of course, the fact that, which is, something that hasn't escaped you, it's there in your report, the fact that these organizations are now under new leadership, the fight against corruption was boosted, and there is no evidence that these people are incompetent. What then do you ascribe the failures to, in other words, on the part of the leadership of these two organizations?
So on the one hand, dealing directly with our findings in this report that there are these sort of compromised officials who haven't acted with integrity. One of the failures is that the NPA hasn't been transparent about what it is doing to investigate and deal with these prosecutors. So, for example, one prosecutor, Andrew Chayoke, retains a very senior position in Joburg as the head of public prosecutions for that district, which means that he oversees important state capture cases like the PRASA corruption cases. So we ask, why is Andrew Chayoke still employed in office when he is facing such serious allegations of misconduct? Why hasn't he been placed on precautionary suspension while the NPA investigates him? So that is one issue. The other issue is that we also believe that the NPA and Hawks need to be honest about the setbacks that they are facing in terms of prosecuting state capture cases, and they need to develop a plan of action that is publicly accessible, where we can publicly hold them to account. So, for example, the NPA has said that they don't have the capacity or the skills to prosecute financial crimes. What are they doing to recapacitate themselves to prosecute these cases? We hear, for example, that they've employed around 1,000 aspirant prosecutors as part of a developing program of young prosecutors, which is great. We need young blood in these agencies, but we also need experienced and credible, legitimate prosecutors who know how to prosecute complex crimes as well. And we need a plan of action around this.
I mean, the numbers which you have captured, I think, so well, are quite staggering and sobering at the same time. Because if you look at the fact that, we're talking about 9 years of since the Gupta plane landed at Waterkloof and everything that follows, 5,473 pages of evidence. If we're looking at numerous, lots of other numbers, and the fact that at the end of it all, you're talking about 0 convictions. 7 years have passed since the Hawks began investigations. If we're talking about state capture matters that have been enrolled in the courts, 21 of them, 65 accused persons have, yet no one is behind bars. That probably speaks to bigger problems, and perhaps giving the benefit of a doubt is something we should perhaps no longer be entertaining, or at least not to the extent that we have. I don't know if you disagree.
No, I agree 100% with your assessment, Will. We must remember that the NDPP, Shamila Batoy, and Hawks head Godfrey Labia, they have been in office since 2018. It is now almost 4 years, and there is yet to be a conviction of a single state capture crime. When we recently saw earlier this year the news that some of the Gupta brothers were going to be extradited from Dubai, there was a lot of jubilation that met that news, but there was also a lot of skepticism. And I think that skepticism is indicative of the public feeling towards the NPA and Hawks at the moment, that there is that lack of public trust. And we need to listen to that. It's important because we need to be able to hold our law enforcement agencies to account and say, why haven't you convicted these people yet? Why is it taking so long to extradite the Gupta brothers from Dubai? And why aren't we being told the plan of action? Why aren't we being told what state capture cases are on the agenda to be enrolled in court? This is information that we as a public deserve to know, because we have a history of impunity in this country. And in order to disrupt it, we need to act now. We need to act in terms of state capture.
Well, I wanted to listen to some of the answers that Shamila Batoy and Godfrey Labia, gave when we put questions or we basically raised some of the questions you were raising about their performance when they were on the program. Here's what Shamila Batoyi gave as reasons, for perhaps the lack of progress that we are witnessing.
We have been on a very serious learning curve in terms of getting to understand what the impact of weakening state institutions in the past 10 years really has been, and the efforts that it takes to make sure that we are able to deal with not just grand corruption cases, but really to get a grip with crime in general, which we know is just off the charts, so to speak.
Those who have been giving you the benefit of a doubt are saying maybe one of the big factors is pushback from within, which other organizations, similar to yours, who were hollowed out, who were undermined as the project of state capture continued. Would you say that have you experienced a pushback from within? Have your efforts at any time during the past 3 years been undermined in any way?
Look, let me first state that the NPA is an organization of over 4,000 staff members. It's a really big, it's a reasonably big organization. And the majority of the staff members are very, very committed, dedicated, hardworking people of integrity. And that is the strength of the NPA. There have been people that have been implicated, staff members that have been implicated at the Zondo Commission. And as I explained in the press briefing earlier today, there are internal processes that are dealing with these issues. But we have not had any evidence of overt sabotage by members of the NPA.
Shamila Batoyi there. And last week we did have Godfrey Libya. This is what he had to say for himself.
I do not believe that we are slow in the way in which we investigate and secure the attendance of accused persons in court. Since 2018, when I came into office, we have already secured more than 12,000 accused persons, and that number for me is not does not demonstrate that we are slow. Looking at the number of cases that we are handling, for me, I think that the investigators are doing their best. The number is limited, of course, and which is why they are carrying a bigger load. We have secured several number of cases of high-profile individuals in society, both in the business as well as in the government departments. And I think for me, the record shows that there has been a lot of work that has been done. Of course, there should be a time that things did not go as quickly as we would like to see them going through.
And those were the explanations, Raisa, that the heads of the two institutions gave when we posed all the problems and the issues that are so well articulated in your report. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for you.
And that's our show for tonight. So join us again tomorrow evening, same time. Have a good night.